Today, we're jumping into a really powerful idea from the devotional Rhapsodies of Realities. We're talking about what it truly means to count on God's protection, especially when, things get tough.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been there? That moment you're about to speak up for what you believe in, and then there it is. That hesitation, that knot in your stomach. I think we've all felt that.
Well, it turns out you're not alone. Not by a long shot. The devotional we're looking at today actually identifies this feeling as a very real, very valid challenge, particularly for people it calls soul winners, those who are actively out there sharing their faith. So how do we get past that fear? For that, we're going to look at an incredible story, a real-life case study in courage. We're heading back in time to the ancient, bustling city of Corinth to see what happened with the Apostle Paul.
Now listen, Paul wasn't just dealing with a little bit of awkwardness. No way. He was in Corinth, a huge cultural center, and he was facing some serious, intense, organized opposition. The stakes were incredibly high.
But here's the wild part. Even with all that pushback, what he was saying was working. His message was taking root. He saw these incredible conversions, including, get this, Crispus, the chief ruler of the local synagogue, plus his entire family and a ton of other Corinthians. This was definitely not a failing mission.
And that's where we get to the crucial point. The opposition was real. The pressure was mounting. Can you just imagine the uncertainty? What do you do next? Do you pack up and leave? Do you maybe tone it down a bit? What's the next move?
And this is where the story takes a huge turn. Right in the middle of all that pressure and doubt, Paul gets a powerful, direct message of reassurance. It happens in a vision, right in the middle of the night, and the message couldn't have been clearer. Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent. And then comes the reason, the promise that underpins it all. For I am with you.
This wasn't just a nice thought or a little pep talk. This was a direct divine promise. It was the specific reassurance he needed, guaranteeing not just presence, but actual protection from harm. And yeah, that changed everything.
So what does a promise like that actually do? How does it translate into real-world action? Well, let's look at the direct impact it had on Paul's entire approach.
I mean, just look at this transformation. Before the vision, he's facing all this heat, living with uncertainty, probably thinking about leaving. But after, he digs in. He stays in Corinth, not just surviving, but teaching with boldness and power, actively raising up new leaders. The change is like night and day.
And he didn't just stay for a week or a month. Paul stayed in Corinth for a year and a half. Think about that. 18 solid months of dedicated, bold ministry, all sparked by that one moment of reassurance.
So in the end, that vision did way more than just take away his fear. It actively empowered him. It fueled a long and productive ministry in a city that would become one of the most important centers of the early church.
Okay, that's a great story about Paul, but what does it have to do with us today? This is where the devotional draws a direct line from Paul's experience in ancient Corinth right into our lives right now.
And here's the connection laid out plain and simple. The devotional says, the same Spirit is working in, with, and through you. The whole point is that the power and presence that emboldened Paul are not just some historical artifact.
The devotional really drives this home, emphasizing that the promise of God's presence was never meant to be a one-time special deal just for Paul. It's a foundational theme.
In fact, it sounds an awful lot like Jesus' own final words to his disciples, doesn't it? Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. You see, the promise Paul got was a specific application of a universal principle.
And it's not just about a comforting presence. The scriptures also connect this presence with empowerment. It says you will receive power to be effective witnesses. So it's presence and power.
All right, so let's boil all this down. What are the key takeaways? First, feeling that fear when you share what you believe is normal. It's a common challenge. Second, getting that reassurance from God can completely transform that fear into bold, confident action, just like it did for Paul. And finally, and this is the big one, that promise of presence and protection isn't just for historical figures. It's for believers today. It's for you. And the devotional doesn't just leave us with ideas. It moves from theory to practice, finishing with a prayer. It's a way of asking for the strength and the courage to actually apply these truths and be effective. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. If this promise of divine presence and protection is really true for you, what situation, What conversation, what opposition in your own life could you face with a whole new kind of boldness?